Let me tell you something real. Setting the standard starts the moment you stop waiting for permission. Too many people are stuck in neutral because they're waiting on a green light from somebody else, waiting for validation, waiting for approval, waiting for the right time. But leaders don't wait to be chosen. They decide. The moment you decide who you are and what you will tolerate from yourself, the standard is born. Not when the crowd claps, not when the money shows up, not when the results are perfect. It starts internally when you draw a line and say, this is who I am from this point forward. See, average people let circumstances define them. High performers define themselves before the circumstances even show up. They don't ask, can I do this? They ask, what must I do to make this happen? That's a different mindset. That's a standard, and once you set it, everything in your life is forced to respond. Some things will rise to meet it. Some people will fall away. Some habits will be exposed, but that's the price of elevation. You've got to understand this. Your life will never outperform your standards. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your standards. If your standard says it's okay to quit when it gets hard, you'll quit. If your standard says it's okay to show up late, unprepared, and inconsistent, that's exactly how you'll live. But when your standard says, I finish what I start, I do the work even when I'm tired, I don't negotiate with excuses, your behavior has no choice but to align. Setting the standard means you stop blaming your past, your environment, and the people around you. It means you stop saying, if they would just change. No, you change, you go first. You become the example. You decide that discipline is not optional, that effort is not seasonal, and that your word to yourself matters more than your feelings in the moment. That's when transformation begins. And listen, this decision is lonely at first. When you raise your standard, you won't fit in the same rooms anymore. People will question you, some will mock you, others will feel uncomfortable because your commitment exposes their comfort. But you can't be afraid of that. Growth demands separation before it produces success. You're not being arrogant, you're being intentional. You're not trying to be better than anyone else. You're refusing to be less than what you're capable of. Setting the standard also means you stop negotiating with weakness. You don't wait until you feel motivated. You move because that's who you decided to be. You don't need perfect conditions to perform at a high level. You create consistency in imperfect conditions. That's maturity, that's leadership, that's power. And once you make this decision, don't announce it, live it. Let your actions speak, let your work ethic explain you, let your consistency introduce you, because when you decide who you are and refuse to compromise, life has no choice but to adjust. Set the standard and become it. Point 2 is about this truth right here. Your habits are speaking louder than your words. You can say you want more, you can say you're hungry, you can say this is your year, but your daily routine is already telling the real story. Every single day, your habits are voting either for the life you want or the life you keep settling for. And the standard is not what you say you believe. It's what you repeatedly do when nobody is clapping for you. See, consistency is the language of standards. Anybody can show up once. Anybody can go hard when they feel inspired. But standards are built in the ordinary, repetitive, uncelebrated moments of life. How you wake up, how you prepare, how you handle distractions, how you work when the results are slow and the excitement is gone. That's where the standard is either being reinforced or quietly destroyed. You've got to stop lying to yourself. If your habits don't match your vision is just entertainment. You don't become great by accident. You don't drift into excellence. Everything high level is intentional. If you don't intentionally build winning habits, losing habits will build themselves. And once they're built, they start running your life on autopilot. High standards demand structure. They demand routine. They demand discipline that shows up even when motivation disappears. Because motivation is emotional, but habits are behavioral. And behavior, repeated over time, becomes identity. That's why what you do daily matters more than what you say occasionally. You can't talk your way into a new life. You have to work your way into it, and listen closely. Small habits are not small. Waking up late every day, skipping preparation, cutting corners, telling yourself you'll make it up tomorrow. Those little decisions compound. They don't look dangerous in the moment, but over time they erode your confidence, your credibility, and your capacity. On the other hand, small disciplined habits, reading a little, training a little, focusing a little more, compound too. And one day you wake up and realize you're operating on a level most people can't reach because they never respected the process. Setting the standard with your habits also means eliminating inconsistency. You can't be locked in one day and lazy the next and expect elite results. Excellence doesn't respond to mood, it responds to commitment. When your habits are non-negotiable, your progress becomes inevitable. You stop relying on how you feel and start relying on who you've decided to be. This is where most people lose the fight, not because they lack talent, but because they lack discipline. Not because they don't dream big, but because they don't manage their days. You don't need more time, you need better habits. You don't need another speech, you need another level of execution. So if you really want to set the standard, audit your habits. Look at your routine honestly, not emotionally, not defensively. Ask yourself, if everyone lived like me, what kind of results would they get? Because your habits are setting a standard whether you like it or not. Raise your habits and your life will have no choice but to rise with them. Point 3 is about this right here. Be the example even when it costs you. Setting the standard is not about talking loud, posting quotes, or demanding excellence from other people. It's about living it first. It's about holding yourself to a level that makes excuses uncomfortable in your own presence. Because real leadership doesn't come from position, it comes from example. People don't follow words, they follow consistency. If you want to set the standard, you have to be willing to go first, to work harder before anyone else believes, to sacrifice comfort before anyone sees the reward, to stay disciplined when nobody is monitoring you. That's where the standard becomes visible, not in public but in private, not when it's easy but when it's inconvenient. And listen, this will cost you. It will cost you time. It will cost you comfort. It might cost you relationships that were built on convenience instead of growth. When you raise your standard, you disrupt the status quo. People who were comfortable with the old version of you will feel challenged by the new one. Some will support you, some will distance themselves, some will try to pull you back to what's familiar. But you can't lower your standard to protect other people's comfort. Being the example means you don't ask others to do what you refuse to do yourself. You don't demand commitment while giving excuses. You don't talk about discipline while living undisciplined. You show up early, you prepare thoroughly, you do the work even when there's no spotlight, and over time, that consistency speaks louder than any speech ever could. You also have to understand this: people are always watching, even when they don't say anything. Your effort gives others permission to elevate. Your discipline challenges their laziness. Your consistency exposes their inconsistency. And that's why setting the standard can feel lonely. But lonely doesn't mean wrong. Sometimes loneliness is just confirmation that you're growing beyond what's average. Setting the standard as an example also requires humility. You don't brag. You don't announce your grind. You let your results speak. You let your growth explain the sacrifice. You don't chase validation. You build value. And when people see that you're not just talking, but living it day after day, respect follows naturally. This is how cultures change. This is how teams rise. This is how families are transformed. One person decides, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to perform. One person decides, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to work. One person decides to embody the standard instead of just talking about it. And here's the truth. Anybody can criticize, but very few can inspire. Anybody can point out what's wrong, but leaders fix it with their behavior. When you become the example, you eliminate excuses without saying a word. So don't wait for everyone to agree with you. Don't wait for support. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Be the standard. Live it. Embody it. Because when you do, others will either rise to meet it or step aside. And either way, you keep moving forward. Point 4 is about this final separation. Maintain the standard when it gets hard. Because anybody can look disciplined when life is good. Anybody can stay focused when the energy is high and the results are showing. But the true test of your standard is what you do when you're tired, frustrated, doubted, and unseen. That's where most people fold, not because they can't do it, but because they never decided what they would refuse to compromise on. See, a standard isn't proven on your best day. It's revealed on your worst day, when you don't feel like getting up, when progress feels slow, when the work stops being exciting and starts being heavy, when nobody is checking for you. That's the moment that defines who you really are. And if you haven't decided in advance how you'll operate under pressure, emotions will make the decision for you, and emotions are inconsistent. Maintaining the standard means you don't negotiate with discomfort. You don't lower the bar because you're tired. You don't relax the discipline because it's inconvenient. You understand that pressure is not a sign to quit. It's a sign to lock in. Champions don't rise because they avoid adversity. They rise because they're prepared for it. They've already made the decision. No matter what, the standard stays the same. This is where consistency becomes a weapon. Not loud consistency, not emotional consistency. Quiet, relentless consistency. Doing the work when it feels boring. Showing up when the results are invisible. Trusting the process when the payoff is delayed. Most people quit right before the breakthrough because they mistake discomfort for failure. But discomfort is often just proof that you're growing. Maintaining the standard also means protecting it. You guard your habits. You protect your time. You become selective with your energy. Because not everything deserves access to you. When you know what you're building, you stop entertaining distractions that pull you backward. You don't explain your discipline to undisciplined people. You just live it. And listen, there will be days when you don't feel strong. That's human, but strength is not about feeling powerful. It's about acting with discipline anyway. You lean on structure when motivation is gone. You rely on habits when emotions are unstable. That's why the standard must be deeper than feelings. Feelings change, the standard doesn't. This is the difference between starters and finishers, between talent and legacy, between people who try and people who transform. Maintaining the standard under pressure builds trust, with yourself first. And when you trust yourself, confidence becomes unshakable. You don't panic. You don't fold. You don't need external validation to keep going. So understand this greatness is not a moment. It's a maintenance plan. It's waking up every day and recommitting to the same standard, especially when life tests you, especially when nobody's watching, especially when it would be easier to quit. Because when you maintain the standard when it's hard, life eventually has no choice but to respect you. And once life respects you, results follow.